You're watching NBC 11 News.
As we've been covering the Scott Peterson murder trial, prosecutors are trying to portray Scott Peterson's attitude as the actions of a man who is guilty of killing his wife. But there have been many critics who say the prosecution is lacking evidence, giving a greater boost to the defense. Eric Chase is a defense attorney who has been watching the case closely. He joins us live this morning from our NBC station in Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Laura.
I want to first start out with some new info that just came out. The cousin of Laci's mother testified today saying that Scott Peterson had told her on Christmas Eve, December 24th, he had been fishing. That's what we've been hearing all along. Now that woman's husband, the cousin's husband, now says that Scott Peterson told him that Scott Peterson actually had been golfing that day. This is the first contradiction that we've heard. How big is this?
Well, that depends on how good a job Mark Geragos does in changing the debate away from Scott Peterson's inconsistencies over to the gestational age of the baby that was found of Connor. Certainly, there are a lot of inconsistencies in this case, and in fact, we've been aware for some time that Scott told some people that he was golfing and told other people that he was fishing, and that certainly does not look good for Mr. Peterson.
Right, and you've worked with Mark Geragos, I understand, before. And he seems to be doing very well. Is it the fact that he's doing well or the prosecution's not doing such a great job?
Well, I've said from the beginning that what Mark's going to have to do, and I think he did it right from his opening statement, is frame the debate. He's got to get it away from Scott Peterson's inconsistencies and get it over to an area that he can at least break even or tie or maybe even win. And that's this issue that we first heard about in his opening statements. And I think it's what the jury's thinking about. As we go through these questions about inconsistencies, the jury's waiting to hear from the experts about whether Connor was born alive. Because if he was born alive, the case is over.
Now, the prosecution's case thus far has seemed to be attempting to paint Peterson as suspicious. Laci's mother taking the stand saying that, of course, afterwards she thought that he was suspicious. Even a family member, actually a family friend, who had heard Scott Peterson saying when Laci was first pregnant that he was hoping for infertility. All this can paint Peterson really as a cad in this case, but how do you think the jury is handling this? Is it enough to say the guy is guilty of killing her?
Well, this case boils down to kind of a sense that the prosecution is trying to portray that he must have done it. There is no hard evidence, as we all well know. So that's really what it's coming down to, is all these things that add up to is not just being a cad and lying to his mistress as well as lying to his wife, but the inconsistencies that seem to show that he was conscious of his own guilt. Why would somebody lie about his whereabouts the day his wife went missing unless he had done something like kidnap her or kill her?
Could that
and that's
be
what the prosecution is trying to do.
Right, but could that be enough in such a circumstantial case?
Actually, I don't think it is enough. The jury, I would expect, is going to want to hear some direct evidence linking Scott Peterson to the murder. And I want to go back to another point, Laura. I think what Mark Geragos did in his opening statements is frame the debate. This case is going to be about the expert testimony on the birth of that baby. And I think the jury is sitting there on pins and needles, although probably a little bored going through this lengthy testimony, but they're waiting to hear from those experts. So that's what Mark did in his opening statement. It was an exceptional job of framing the debate, and that's what we're waiting for.
Exactly. Eric Chase, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you, Laura.
Well, the state attorney general is staying away from the controversy surrounding the shooting death of a San Francisco police officer.